I never hit record. So we're starting over here from the top. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve. Here we are with take 2 of the top 5 most intriguing players from the cornerback spot we'll go through in this episode. If you want, you can find this chart up at the website, www.theFFforge.com. Probably run through things. The second take's never as good as the first take, but maybe it'll be better. There's quite a few prospects overall here to go through, so if you would like to learn more about this chart, I think you can figure things out from here. I do think it's pretty obvious, and you could watch one of the previous videos from this series, and I do explain it a little bit more in the beginning. This is based off of 2022 and 2023 combine data. Over here is the size adjusted prospect score, so I took the players' masses, took their weight divided by their height in inches, and then I looked at their athletics through that lens to see what might pop out from there, and found some interesting things, but that this prospect score is not the end-all or be-all in any way. Once again, talked a little bit more about that in some of the other episodes. So last season, as you may know already, I didn't know anything about the players entering that draft, but when I went through this process, I think I found some pretty solid names here that were intriguing to me at the time. Tariq Woolen, Zion McCullen, Ahmad Swasgun, Khair Elam, Damari Mathis, Martin Emerson, and Super Bowl winner Jalen Watson. Also, Lions fans, I had some pretty good things to say about Chase Lucas, so just practice some patience with him. What I wrote about him was I think that he'll blossom later on in his career. He'll kind of be a savvy vet down the road, so just be patient, and I think he'll blossom for you. By the way, if you don't know who he is, Lions fans, that's okay. He's a 7th-round cornerback that you picked up last year. That being said about last season, this season, I am much more aware of the guys entering the draft, but I am trying to not let that cloud this process for me. I still want to form my own opinions in some ways and then look to other sources to verify what I'm seeing or not, and that's what I've done for this episode. Definitely check out some scouting reports, and of course I see the clips that I end up putting on the episode as well, but those are just highlights, so they're not really too good to base things off of. Anyways, this is a positive look at these players. This is trying to figure out, at the very least, what their ceilings may look like, what they may turn into in the NFL, whether they're first-rounders or undrafted free agents. I love them all the same, and I'm here to celebrate these kids. I'm not here to tear them down in any way. Some negative things will come up. As a reminder, this is just based on their physical and their athletic traits, and those are a piece of the puzzle, piece of the pie. These don't tell the whole story, but I do think that they tell a lot. The NFL does rely on great athletes at the end of the day, and guys have to meet some sort of physical threshold to play in the NFL ultimately. But you can be shorter and still be extremely successful too. That happens all the time. I think that's it. Let's move on into the first guy on this position, and it's going to be right up at the top here, Julius Brents, who has the highest score. That's why he's at the top there. Duh. Just take a moment to look through those athletics. Obviously great, and he is a big dude. This was almost love at first sight. He is tall, he has long arms, he has a powerful and explosive base, he is extremely quick, and he has great acceleration. His only weakness is his speed. Put him in the slot, put him in zone coverage on a tight end at safety, or stick him on the outside in the right kind of matchup or with some help from over the top. Where does his utility end? Brents will be best served if he isn't expected to be a shutdown, man-to-man coverage kind of guy. But he absolutely could make a living in a defense that utilizes plenty of zone coverage. I have little doubt that he is going to be my guy of my guys at the cornerback spot, much like Tariq Woolen was last season. I'm going to put a 2nd-round draft grade on him, but that's only because of his limitations in man coverage. Everywhere else, I thought he's an A+, really, really excited to see him play at the next level. Now let's move on to the next guy who's going to be one spot lower on the list, and that is Mekhi Garner. Mekhi is a thick boy. Just look at this. This is where that statement comes from about being a thick boy. He may not be an every down starter, but he should do an excellent job as a rotational player. Get him out there in the red zone and if you're playing against an opponent that throws a lot of screens. In either scenario, I think that he should absolutely shine. For his size, he can move, but it is not something that he can take advantage of if he's going up against a guy that's just streaking on down the field. And you really can't project him to maintain his size while also getting faster. Dear NFL, don't Eddie Lacy the guy. Just let him be who he is, the best who he is. If you didn't catch why I would say that Eddie Lacy was forced to lose a lot of weight in Green Bay, and he was just never the same guy. And I always thought that he was always a bigger dude, but that's just how he knew how to do him. Anyways, Mekhi feels like a home run hit in the 5th round of the draft, and I don't think that it would be overdrafting him in the 4th round if the team has a plan for him. Up next, we are going to go one spot lower to Deonte Banks. Deonte Banks is 6'0". He has a powerful and explosive base, and he has great speed, plus he is well built, and he should be able to hold up to a season's worth of NFL beatings year 1. Additionally, Deonte was a guy who really stood out in the on-field drills at the Combine. If I had to guess, the dude is an absolute playmaker, and he should work fine in either zone or man coverage. I'm going to give him a late round 1/early round 2 draft grade. He is pretty darn impressive, but the scouting report on him does point out a few concerns that I am going to heed, and that's going to bring us to a name that you should definitely recognize, and that is Joey Porter Jr. Just look at him there. He is Mr. Smiles. So that's what I wrote from his media interview. I just wrote Mr. Smiles in quotes, and then I wrote that he was a very likable kid. Joey is 6'2.5", if I didn't mention that, and he definitely has some of his dad's genes in him. He has big hands, long arms, and he is quite strong for a cornerback. He obviously grew up with an advantage in the football IQ department, understands the game, and is comfortable with the game at the next level. Honestly, I think that Joey Porter Jr., he's a can't-miss prospect, and he'll be a positive influence in the locker room from what I can tell. It's impossible not to bring bias into giving him a draft grade, so I'm not going to give him a draft grade, but I am just going to say that I support drafting him in the 1st round, like many expect he'll go. And then last up, we have DJ Turner the second, just 5 spots down here. There you can see his physical traits and those athletic traits. And DJ Turner is 5'11", and I know that Emmanuel Forbes is one of those big names in this process, and if you like him, you may want to take a second look at DJ Turner. DJ weighs more than 170 pounds for a start. He's even faster, and he even did better in the vert. His shorter arms may be a bit of an issue, but on most plays, his speed should be able to keep him close enough to not have those shorter arms hurt his ability to be making a play on said play. I was about to say that he reminds me of Xylon McCollum, or I was about to type that while preparing for this from last year's draft. But then I looked at his scouting report, and given that he played for the Wolverines, has a high football IQ, and has produced at a pretty high level in a competitive conference, it's clear that I'm just late on this guy. I think the Combine assures that he gets taken early day 2. His physical limitations should keep him out of the 1st round, but I like DJ Turner. Now let's get on to some notable names here, and then we do have from the media portion of the Combine, I have some takeaways, a couple of other notable names in there. First of all, we'll go through these notable names. First up is going to be Corey Trice Jr., who is right there. I have it attempted to have it highlighted. As you can see, another tall, big guy, good physical and strong. Definitely a pretty sweet prospect there. Then we have Darrell Lutter Jr. just up here. And I think things must just look a little better once we go over here. A little bit. He just barely made the list. Then we have Darius Rush, who is right here. Darius Rush, once again, very long arms. Gotta love that. Good size. Good 40-10 split. And just the broad, not so great. Just not a perfect prospect. That's okay. Then we have Jacorian Bennett, Right down here, not the best physical prospect, about average, maybe a little less than average height-wise. But he had the second best 40 of this class, really, really good 148 on the 10 split, second best, tied for second best, I believe there. Not a great bench, but that's okay. And then the vert and the broad were very good as well for him. Looks like a very interesting prospect that I'm definitely going to check more into. Then we have Clark Phillips III right down here. As you can see, not the best physical prospect, very strong, especially for his size. Solid first step there. Otherwise, there's some issues, but he's just one of those guys that I do want to check more into. Then we have Riley Moss, just a little bit higher. Probably just barely made the list here. Then we have Caillou Blue Kelly, one spot ahead of him, above him. Same prospect grading there, but I do like Caillou Blue Kelly just a little bit more than Riley Moss. And last up we have Lance Boykin, who is all the way near the bottom of the list because he didn't test in, he tested in a couple of physicals, but not enough to get a prospect score. But physically, he's definitely ready to to be able to compete at the NFL level. Another guy I want to check into because he's got those physical traits. And then it's time to finish this up. I'm going to just go over some of my observations, notes that I took, takeaways from about 6-7 guys who I caught doing the media portion of at the combine process, answering questions for the media. While I'm doing this, go on down. Let me know who your my guys are in the comments. I'd definitely be interested to hear, especially if you have some guys that you really like that I didn't bring up, or if you agree with me, disagree with me, anything, whatever. Start a conversation. I like to chat about this stuff this time of the year, so I'm sure I'll join in, or if you have a recommendation on somebody I should look into more, I appreciate those. So let's move on to this media portion. And first up was Jalen Jones, and I wrote that he had a lanky build, but he was also, lanky sometimes can not be a great term, but he was also just built really well. Perfect body, I guess, to play a physical style of game. He was chewing gum throughout the whole interview, like really horribly, and he also was proud of his successes, specifically the ones that came out of that he could directly correlate to the work that he put throughout the week. And he had a very coach-like demeanor about him. Once again, going back to the chewing of the gum. I did have a little bit of an issue with the chewing of the gum there. I really like the build, really like the coach-like demeanor thing. But, these are basically interviews, the whole combine. And to just be chewing your gum like he was isn't very professional. And so I just question why you would risk... Like, I personally wouldn't want to... I don't hold that against him specifically. I just hold the choice to not prevent yourself from doing that, because it's not a good look. But whatever, it's not a big deal, that's for sure. Then we have Travius Hodges Tomlinson up next. Obviously, a relative, I'm not sure exactly what the relativeness is, to LaDainian Tomlinson, but Travius he has in all caps a stout build, and he has the jawline of a tanker. Travius loves the competition, and he considers himself to be a dog. He was arrogant. I wrote that he was arrogant in a good way. However, after the session, he was one of very few guys who didn't say thank you to the media. And combined with his arrogance, I just wonder if he's quite egotistical, probably. And that is concerning to me. Big egos have a tendency to break horribly when things aren't going their way. So that is a knock for me. I didn't really appreciate him thinking, I don't know, not having the manners. I don't know what I don't know the reason. So I don't have access to more information. It was just a negative sign, that's all. Then up next we have Cam Smith, and the first word that I wrote when he came up was nervous. The second word that I wrote, probably not too long ago, was jittery. The third phrase here that I wrote was his brain was spinning at 1 million RPMs. And he said that he was happy to go from the inside and to cover the slot guy. Didn't sound like that was something that he normally does, so he was just saying, yeah, like, I'm happy to take on other things that maybe I haven't traditionally done. I don't mind that, even if I'm better or prefer to play on the outside, so appreciated that. And once again, back to back, there was no thank you from him. However, I didn't hold that against him because it was so clear he was so nervous up there. He just didn't like the situation that it just blank-minded. He was really polite and everything. He just totally forgot about it. I could almost guarantee it. So, not going to hold that against him. But the nervousness, the jitteriness, I would want to make sure, like, when he gets on a football field, like, that's never shown up there. Is it just a speaking in public kind of thing? Probably is, but that would be something I would just want to look into. That's about it for Cam Smith. Good prospect, and he would have been on my notables names list. Then we have Tyrique Stevenson, and he was just the exact opposite of Cam Smith. He was chill, he was relaxed, man. And he said he's happy to play from the outside to the inside at linebacker if need be, just like the other guy. Happy to be versatile if that's what a team wants and needs from him. Doesn't matter, just wants to play at the next level kind of thing. The right answer, whether it's true or not anyways, in these questions. And he was also very understanding of his own weaknesses. And in his own words, he said he is his own toughest critic. But he didn't need to say that. That wasn't just something he was saying. It was very evident that he is a tough critic for himself. And I really appreciate that. This is the type of guy who's going to put in the extra work after hours in order to be... he's a perfectionist in order to get better and hone the craft. So Tyrique Stevenson really, really liked his interview and his mentality. Then we have Kelee Ringo. Very big known name, and he was slightly high-strung up at the podium. He spoke incredibly quickly, something I'm aware of, familiar with. I thought that it might be nerves that were causing him to speak quickly, but I wasn't positive. He kind of hit it. However, as the interview went along, and maybe as he even loosened up a little bit, it became pretty evident that I wrote, later on I added the word probably after that, as far as the reason for his high rate of speech. He also said that he appreciates good technique, and he showed understanding of the chess game that can go on between offenses and defenses. And as he spoke about that and talking about good technique, his appreciation there, I liked those features about Kelee Ringo, not really holding up the slight nerves, unlike Cam Smith. Even though I'm not really holding against Cam Smith too much, I wouldn't be worried about even looking into why Kelee Ringo was a little bit nervous on stage. That was typical normal nerves. He had the ability to cover up and cope. That's a good thing, I think. Then we have Christian Gonzalez, and the only word that I wrote for him was confident, and we probably didn't need to cover him here. I could have covered him on the notables names list because he would have been there, but I just wanted to make you sweat a little bit. Then we have Brian Branch. Maybe you sweat a little bit here too, but if you... no, actually, I cut that out of the safety video. I thought he was in the safeties originally. But anyways, Brian Branch thinks before he talks, not something I'm familiar with. He listens intently. He seems genuinely excited to play at the next level for a quality coach that he has a connection with. And the same was said about playing alongside quality other coworkers, other players. And so I thought this was a good thing and a bad thing. So he does seem to be a bit of a sponge. So if you get him to the right team, has a coach that he respects, has players next to him that he respects, I think he's going to, like I said, soak it up like a sponge and be the best Brian Branch that you can get. However, I would be a little bit concerned if I was, for instance, the Washington Commanders with what he said there, because I don't know that I have a coach that he's going to come in respecting. Maybe they can earn his respect. But I would just be a little concerned. Are you going to get all of Brian Branch? Is he going to come in kind of disappointed? He's not really, I can't think of Washington's defenders in the backside that he's really going to look up to and be like, oh man, I'm so excited to play next to these guys, at least currently. And so, that's not the only example around the league. Not a knock, just something that if I was drafting, I would want to make sure that I have those things in place. I would want to make sure I have a player's coach. I would want to make sure that I have a respectable coach, and at least somewhat, and or that I have some players alongside him that he would respect. That's it. So that is it. That's the end of the video. Thank you. Bye. That's the end. We're going to go to the offense next. I don't know what position yet, but I'll see you tomorrow night. It'll be a surprise.